this video is in response to one of my former students, or one of my current students, I guess, living in St. Louis, Missouri. He sent me a copy of his swing, or a video of his swing in slow motion, and we see a lot of flipping going on through impact and after impact. Kind of looks like this. So not to pick on Greg, but this is Greg's affliction, and it's so many other people's problem that I decided to do a video response rather than to try to explain it to him over the phone. So it's a complicated problem. Almost everybody fights this at some point in their career. It can cause shanks, it can cause hooks, it can cause high shots, it can cause 1,000 problems, but at the end of the day, nobody can hit the ball any good if they're doing this at impact. The reason it's one of the hardest things to fix, I think, is because we don't have a real good understanding of what is actually causing the flip. I think we assume that it's us, and I assumed in my teaching for a really long time that it was my player subconsciously or consciously trying to lift the ball in the air or add loft to get it to go airborne, and I actually I've been able to teach it out of people by having them really focus on covering the ball and compressing the ball, and you can check that video out as well. It's called Covering the Ball, and it just talks about hitting down on it, so to speak. But if that's not working for you, if you really need to stop flipping, you've got to understand this in the realm of physics. And the reason you have to understand it is because no matter what you tell yourself to do, if you don't understand why you're doing it, it's probably not going to stick. So I'm going to start with kind of a little physics lesson, and we're going to talk about centripetal acceleration. And centripetal acceleration just deals with one object moving around another object. Generally, if you think about, if I had a golf ball on the end of a string and I were twirling it around, that ball's traveling around in this circle. We're dealing with centripetal acceleration. So when I'm making a golf swing, or when I'm teaching a golf swing, one of the things I'm working on in the swing is to avoid any of that flipping or avoid any of this disconnected motion. I'm actually considering that if you think about our idea of the wrist twirling the golf ball around on the string, I would make the wrist the left shoulder, the golf ball the club head, and I would just make that left shoulder be kind of the axis of rotation, or the center point of that rotation. So when I'm making my golf swing, very much like if I'm twirling this rock, let's say for instance I'm twirling, the golf ball on the end of a string, and I'm just twirling it and I keep going faster and faster and faster. If I let go, whatever tangent line or wherever that ball was traveling last, that's the direction it's going to keep going. So the way that we equate that, or the way that we relate that to the golf swing, is if I've got my left shoulder in my golf swing, this is going to go a little bit beyond probably most of your understanding of physics, but if I've got my left shoulder going the opposite direction of my club head, so right now my left shoulder is going down, my club head is going up. Now, if I want my club head to come back to the ball, my left shoulder actually has to go, the club head's going to go that direction. My left shoulder's actually got to go to the left while the club head travels to the right, and hopefully you can see that. Now my left shoulder is going to start to make its way up, and the club head's going to start to make its way down. And even though my left shoulder is continuing up, you should be able to see in the video that the club head's actually continuing down. And that just has a lot to do with our laws of nature. In order for me to get this centripetal acceleration to continue, my left shoulder has to move in kind of the opposite direction that I want the club head to move. So this is where we get our flip. If my left shoulder were to stop at any point in this movement, let's say for instance my left shoulder stops right here. My club head was traveling, my left shoulder started going from down to up, my club head was traveling down in this direction. If my left shoulder stops right there, the club unloads right to the ground, just like the golf ball on the end of the string would go right to the ground at that point. So if my left shoulder stops, the club's going to just unload right into the ground. If I find a way to not hit the ground, I'm probably going to be standing up, and I'll see this flip, although I'm not doing it consciously, but this club will start flipping and unwinding, and I'll look something like that in my follow-through. If I'm a tour player, or a player who hits the ball with a good line of compression, or a good left arm down the shaft line, my left shoulder will continue up, and impact, my hips will be open, shoulders will be slightly open, but mainly my left shoulder will have continued to go up and through the shot. So in my follow-through, I may even have the club still very much in front of my body, as opposed to having it flipped over. There are players that through impact lose that kind of relationship between the body and the club swinging together. I would say that those aren't the most accurate golfers, but you can play golf like that. As long as at the point of impact you do have this line of compression, you're going to be okay. But I think the thing that we're most concerned with for you guys flipping is when you guys are coming into impact, your left shoulder's traveling up, 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 and then it stops. And then the club slams into the ground and unhinges, flips into the ball. Your hips are neutral, they haven't turned, and your shoulders haven't really turned much either through impact. So when you're out on the range and trying to get rid of that flip, just remember that it's centripetal acceleration. In other words, your left shoulder has got to keep going, otherwise there's nothing you can do, it's going to flip. So keep the left shoulder going, keep the upper body moving through the shot, and the club will stay here, versus stopping the left shoulder and having the club flip by. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Feel free to comment to this video if you want further help with that, or if that creates other problems, which is possible too. So